Hey, my name is Crunk Chocolates, and welcome to End of Season Report, part of Shades of Blues content season, streaming live on FanFest. Shout out to all of our patronies watching with us, and all of you people. If you're watching, whenever it comes out on YouTube, like this video, hit the thumbs up, show some love. It's the off season. So you know what that means. We can relax a little bit on our tribalism. So here I am with some of my favorite people talking about clubs in the Premier League or the Women's Super League. Today, we talk the Women's Super League. A little more specific. Today, we talk Brighton women, their football, their season. I'm super excited. This is the second time that it's going to be as good as the first, even though we only got like 5 minutes in. A little chaos in my own life. So shout out to our guest, Duncan, for being able to move things around.
Not a problem.
Shady Gang, give it up for him. Duncan of SheGulls, how are you? How are things?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much. I'm sort of boiling to death at the moment. It's a bit of a heat wave here. So there's fans going. There's windows open. There's we're new converts to air conditioning, so that most houses don't have it built in.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to go out and buy. About 2 years ago, I went out and bought one of the portable units.
Yes.
And I must admit, it's probably one of the best things I've ever bought. Because I couldn't do without it nowadays. So yeah,
it's that's definitely a conversation that over the last couple of years, because naturally global warming, but you get the people, all the English people are talking about how hot it is and how tough it is, and then us silly Americans, I will just say it's the royal we, because I don't have this thought, but we're so used to us having air conditioning and our worst case, the window AC units that you're talking about, or they'll look at the weather and they'll be like, oh, it's only 82 degrees. We have 95 degrees all the time and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, between the architecture, everything, it just hits different. You know, the cold is colder there. The hot is hotter there. There were definitely times when I was in England, it was April this year, and there were some cool moments where I was in my friend's house and I'm just like freezing and I just had to put on a hoodie, and he's just like, what, you're cold? And I'm like, yes, man. I don't know why, but something about this place is cold. But then when the sun would come out, it'd be super warm, and it just hits different. And you know, if you search social media, you can find those Americans who go to England and they're making these videos where they're like, I thought the English were weak, but I'm sitting over here and I'm hurting over here. So also, I'm not the one to kind of like if someone says they're overheating and they're hot, like who am I to be like, get over it?
Yeah.
Or, you're a little baby, quit being a baby about it. Like, who am I to do that? So like best of luck to all of my friends over there who are currently melting and doing their best, because I mean it's hot over here too, so it's like, who am I to hate on it? Like either way, we're both miserable in our own way.
Exactly. But we're getting more prepared all the time over here, so hopefully give it a couple of decades and we'll have air conditioning everywhere and stuff, I should think, as well. But yes, unexpected at the moment, but nice all the same. So
yes. Well, let's explain how this will go. There are 5 categories. There's kits, there's manager, squad, supporters, and front office. Our guests will be grading each category American style, A through F, A, B, C, D, and F. For some reason, we skip E. A, B, C, D, and F. A being the best, F being the worst. Feel free to use pluses or minuses. Also, I've been introduced to the U, and that's the little English bit that we threw in there. So feel free to use that if there is a category that you deem it necessary. Let's get into it and start off with the kits. So I'm trying to figure out to have a sponsor like Amex. I don't know. And I guess I don't know how much the sponsorship deal is, but I've always I'm actually gonna veer off of the kit conversation. And this is the women, but I guess this is like a men's perspective. And
absolutely.
Actually, hold on. Nope. I'm gonna keep it moving. I'm gonna go back to the kits because there's been some moves for the Brighton team. They actually just got a keeper, so I actually want to go back to this, and that's actually what I want to talk to more than my little like, why are Brighton doing this? So let's go back to the kits, home kits. What grade would you give it, and why would you give that for your home kit?
So I've given it a B. I think it's difficult to get an A because obviously we're limited to blue and white stripes, so it has to be some variation of that. And I think when it veers away from, the kind of traditional equally sized blue and white stripes, then it can kind of go one way or another. Some really love it, some really hate it. I think this year's home kit was sort of universally, I wouldn't say universally loved, but universally liked. It was certainly an improvement on the previous season's kit. I think it's up there, sort of maybe in the top 10 Albion kits, certainly since they moved to the Amex, and obviously American Express came on board as a sponsor. But I'm not sure it will be many people's favourite, so that's why I've gone for a B on that one.
See, and I like the kind of like bigger, bold stripes. It's like a modern take on it. It almost feels, and also just kind of like the coloring of it and the way that it looks, it just almost feels a little more like lush. And so like, I really like that. Okay, so a B for the home kit. What are your thoughts on the away kit then, and what grade would you give that?
Well, this is going to be controversial amongst the fan base, I think, when they hear what I've got to say. But this would be the yellow away kit.
Yes.
That is going to get a D+ from me.
Oh, so not a fan. Okay.
I've just never really liked our yellow kits. I don't see the link. It's one of sort of 3 or 4 colors that gets rotated in, I'd say, every 3 to 4 seasons. And I don't get on with the yellow kits. So that would be my reason. I think otherwise it's a pleasant enough design. It's one of Nike's stock kind of patterns, I would say, probably similar to the home kit in the way that it's kind of one of a few variations that they do of striped kits. So it's not particularly that I dislike the style. It's more just I'm not a yellow kit fan. Sorry, Norwich. If there's
those kits, like I can imagine, like yellow and green. I am a Green Bay Packers fan, but it's green and yellow instead of
sorry about that.
all. True, that's fair. That's fair. The yellow and green, I feel like it's almost like an albatross. Like it's kind of hard to look at sometimes, and it's really tough to make that kit look nice. Like it's so like I mean I agree with you. So hey, all right, the third kit, that is it's almost like mitt, right? The black and green.
It's black and green.
I really like that one. I actually really like that one. That's my
favorite.
I
do. I think I like the colors in that instance more than I like the pattern. So probably the opposite way around to the yellow kit. Because again, it's a very stock Nike pattern, which is one of the things I haven't loved in the past about the Nike kits, is that they can look very similar, which I I think personally is not a good thing, but some fans would say, well, it's uniformity across the shirts or whatever. But to me, it's a reskin, not a different kit almost. So I've given the green and black a C for that reason. Again, I like the green and black. I would just like to see a more imaginative use of it. So basically we re-upped our deal with Nike to be our kit supplier for this season. So as far as we're aware, all 3 kits will be new next season. So it will be interesting to see how renegotiating that contract with Nike, whether that's made any difference to what they're offering us as sort of design and pattern wise, because we have seen teams like Chelsea, with flames and upside down ticks and a punk themed kit and stuff like that, which, love them or hate them, at least there's a bit of creativity, a bit of uniqueness to them.
Yes. Yep.
So I'm hoping the new Brighton Hove Albion mega store that they've been building opens on Wednesday. So we're hoping 2 + 2 = 4, and the new mega store is stocked full of the new kits, and it's a big, it's a big unveiling. So we will see. We will see.
Wow. That's exciting though. Oh, do they do a lot of like Man City? We're always doing like a retro kit, whether it's an official retro kit or you can purchase the retro kits. Is that something that Brighton? Well, I assume that's something that you would like to see in the mega store. Lots of clothing, lots of things like that. I assume the store is outside the stadium, near the stadium.
Yes, yeah. We've just had a new sort of fan zone built, so because they had to relocate everyone who was in that area, they've kind of been playing Tetris with all the different departments and all the different areas that they had to fit in. So for about the last, I would say 6 to 9 months, maybe, the shop has been sort of in a tent in the car park. Quite a nice tent, to be honest with you. Like, it's it's not your 2-person outdoor in the woods job. It is a proper marquee type thing, but it's all been in preparation to kind of have this 2-level, like I say, air quotes, mega store, where you can do this, do that, and the other. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that will mean they expand their offering. I know we had a kit specifically for when we were in the Europa League a couple of years ago, and that was, I would say, that probably was people's favourite kit, or one of their sort of 1 or 2 or 3 favourite kits, which was white with, I think it had the Royal Pavilion, which is kind of like a skyline landmark in Brighton, sort of in the actual pattern of the shirt, and it was quite unique. It was a little bit more expensive, which I think fans might need to gear up for with this new deal with Nike. We might see these elite shirts or whatever coming through. But it was nice to have a bit of variation on the theme. And like I say, I think they got snapped up so quickly. And I think even if you buy one second hand now, they go for sort of £150. So, $150 at least, I would say, especially if they're in good condition. So hopefully we see more of that, and less of the kind of pre-packed, color blocks like we did before.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I hope for the best. Well, okay, let's move on to the manager, who, if Man City fans pay attention to the City Football Group, they could potentially be aware of Brighton's manager, Dario Vidicic. He came from Melbourne FC, which is a part of City Football Group. He had tons of success there. There were talks once upon a time when Gareth was on shaky ground before they, last summer, not this summer, last summer, where will they, won't they let him go type of vibes. Who could take his spot? A lot of people thought Dario Vidicic. He goes to Brighton. I'm not going to lie. I was like, okay, that's a really good move for Brighton. That's a good move for him. I was a little upset, I'm not going to lie. Even when this summer, I was like, just throw the bag at Dario and be like, sorry, Brighton. But they look like they're going their own way. Dario looks like he's building something really nice at Brighton. What grade would you give him for his job last year, and why?
So I've given him a B plus.
That's pretty good.
I think for a first season in the league, I think other than obviously Sonia Bonpastor, who took over Chelsea, who probably deserves an A, then you have to kind of grade everyone else on a curve down from her and from Chelsea in a way.
That's fair.
So yeah, I've gone with B plus because I think he did pretty much everything that he could do under the circumstances, and I think if he does the exact same thing but with a year under his belt of experience, then he's on course for an A next season, if that makes sense. I think it's probably almost circumstances beyond his control as to why I would give him a B plus and not an A. But yeah, I mean, like you say, very well regarded, did well at Melbourne City. So it was a bit of a shock, I think, when he came in, because I don't think he wasn't on our radar or like the fans' radar. It really varies with our fan base. You can have people who really are super knowledgeable about world football and know players in South America, Australia, etc., but there are also a lot of fans, probably the majority of fans, who know primarily about the WSL. So if it's a manager or a player who's not coming from the WSL, it's a shock. It's out of the blue, as it were. So as soon as I sort of did a bit of research and looked into him, I thought this makes absolute sense for the club. They've gone out and tried to get a young manager who's had success. And I think what was interesting, and I actually wrote an article for a fanzine about it, is I do think there's a bit of a connection there with the Albion having Fabian Hertzler as their men's manager, as their men's team manager.
Mm-hmm.
Had some success with San Pauli, young, lots of ideas. They brought him in. It almost seemed like Dario was a similar situation. Success on a slightly lower scale, but young, lots of ideas. Let's get him in. And it seems to be, for the most part, working out well. So, but to your point, I wouldn't rule out him being a future manager of Man City Women. And I also don't think I would rule out him going elsewhere in the City group as a men's team manager if he does well at the Albion, because I think we're probably past the point where we have to pigeonhole managers as men's or women's managers now. Mm-hmm. And obviously Dario played for Australia, played in Europe. I think he played on at least 2 or 3 different continents. So he's an experienced men's player, and he's bringing that experience over to the women's side at the moment. But it wouldn't shock me if he went somewhere in the City group down the line, and it also wouldn't shock me if that was a men's team, not the women's team. So we shall see, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. When Cushing took over for Gareth, the first thing that news was pushing was how he wasn't going to stay at City. This wasn't a long stay, and that he was hoping to move to a City football group men's team. He wanted to go back to the men's game. And it was one of those things. He was at Melbourne. He was at New York. Yeah, he was at New York and then left there. And I didn't know where specifically he could fit, because Melbourne is one of the, along the lines, like one of the more successful, one of the top, behind, like under City, obviously. And there's like like all the other countries, they're not necessarily like a big jump. So I really didn't know where he would want to go. And honestly, in my opinion, he did such a shit job finishing off the season with the women's team. I hope he like lost any chances of taking over any team in the CFG. I just was thoroughly unimpressed with his tactics, his pre and post match interviews. They all just kind of like he just seemed very cookie cutter. He was just saying very basic things. He definitely didn't get the best out of the players. He didn't try things out. And the media didn't necessarily seem to enjoy him either. And I think that means a lot. Like, I'm not saying, like, obviously Mourinho, he always kind of combats with the media, and there are other managers like Klopp battled with the media, but they still respected them. And I just think at the end, they kind of seemed very over-cushing. I haven't heard or been able to see Dario and how he handles like the pre and post match pressers, but that'll be something that I'll look into. I'm sure he does great. He's a young guy. He has ideas, and those types of guys, especially because he's young and he's relatively new to it. So I could probably see him probably killing it, doing a great job because it's still so fresh and new and exciting to him.
Yeah, I'm actually quite fortunate in that I am allowed to participate in the press conferences. So that's one of the things I think in the women's game that, you know, we still need, you know, grassroots level support. And I think one thing that can really help to elevate that is fan media, you know, what we're kind of doing here, you know, to spread the word. And it's, I must admit that it's really good of the club to allow us to be in those press conferences, because it just gives us an opportunity to feel part of it. And obviously, you know, I do get to ask questions normally at the end, which is fair enough. You know, there's plenty of you know, people from other outlets and stuff, but you know, it's useful from our perspective to be able to get some answers to questions that the fans might have or whatever. So weirdly, I can kind of tell you how he's been doing, and I would say he comes off like a professional of many years. I wouldn't say he's not one. If I would say he's not eloquent, I wouldn't mean it in the sense that he can't talk at length about something. What I would say is he tends to get asked the same questions over and over again, and they are often the questions that he only has one answer for. So all throughout the season, we were kind of flirting with. At the beginning, we were sort of flirting with fourth. At the end, we were flirting with sixth. Every week, by and large, someone would say, you know, and are you aiming for fifth, or are you aiming for fourth, or whatever? And he would just say, I'm not aiming for anything. I aim to win every single game, and the only time it matters is on the final day. That was literally his answer. So then you get a week down the line, maybe we'd won, maybe we lost. You know, are you aiming for fourth, or are you aiming for fifth? I'm not aiming for anything. I'm aiming to win every single game.
So, yeah.
And where we finish will be the, you know, but to be honest with you, and this is something I spoke about at the beginning of the season, as a player, that's exactly what I want to hear. I want to hear my manager say, we can win any game. We should be trying to win every game.
Yeah.
It's only when we don't that we'll start to move down the table. But it's not like, oh, we're aiming for fourth. Oh, we're in fourth. Okay. You know, we can kind of relax.
Job's done.
Exactly. It's like, no, you know, we had a horrible draw in the League Cup. We drew Arsenal straight off the bat once they got in from the Champions League. And, you know, questions were, you know, don't have a good record against Arsenal, etc., etc., etc. And he was like, well, we're still going to win. We're still going out to win. We're still going to try to win. You know, and actually we got beaten fairly decently in that game, but later in the season we go on to beat Arsenal 4-2, where although we didn't have as much possession, we absolutely dominated the goal scoring opportunities. So I think from him telling the players throughout the season, we can win, we are going to win, we want to win, the longer it went, the more they started to buy into that, and obviously, some results didn't go our way. We had some injuries and things like that. But, I just think that's exactly the sort of coach I would want to play for, is someone who is never going to go, oh, well, we could do with a draw, or let's try really defensive to not concede. And, I think he must be, a pleasure to work for. And that's what the players seem to say too. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, as a player, I would love to have a manager who wants to win. Set your team up to win, and that's kind of what you have to do in the WSL. There are so many teams in the WSL who kind of sit back and hunker and try to win 1-0, and he's just like, hey, if we lose, we lose, but we're going to take our chances. I want my players trying to play with conviction. I want them playing with the freedom to try to take chances, and that's how you're going to get better players. That's how you're going to keep players, is by doing those exact things. If you're just having to play super defensive, 2 banks of 4 every single game, no matter the opponent, that gets frustrating. It gets tiring. And also just with Brighton, 5th place. Like, that's y'all are really going to be trouble. We can move on to the squad because I want to talk about we'll talk about the previous season, but I definitely want to hear the joy that you felt when you found out about bringing in the new keeper. So moving on to the squad, what grade would you give them for their performance in the 24-25 season, and why?
So I've given them a B, just a little bit lower than Dario, because I probably gave him the B mainly because it was his debut season. So I think he deserved a little bit of a boost just for that. But I think, again, I think it's difficult not to look at teams that finish in the top 4 and give them some variation of an A+ to an A-. So I think if you don't finish in the top 4, just in my own mind, you're looking at slightly below that. And that's not to say that the players, that by giving them a B, they didn't play well or to the best of their abilities. It's just that if you want to compete at the top, there still needs to be some improvement. There were too many mistakes at times. There was a bit of a reliance on Fran Kirby. It's no coincidence that basically she was injured from November to, I think it was March, if I remember rightly. And I'm pretty sure while she was out injured, we didn't win a single game. And that's not to say that we didn't have a squad that was good enough. It just felt like, because the opposition didn't have to worry about Fran Kirby, they almost could not worry about anyone else too, a little bit. We just lacked a bit of conviction, just lacked a little bit of, maybe a little bit of leadership, maybe a little bit of just nous, the knowledge that having been there before, stop doing this, we start doing this. And I don't think it was a coincidence by any stretch of the imagination that when she got injured, that we kind of had quite a big dip in form. But then I think that's why I have to give them a B, because equally I think we should have had a good enough squad, and I think we did have a good enough squad not to lose Fran Kirby and instantly go into a big dip of form. We should have had, and in my opinion, we did have the quality to kind of sustain a bit more of a challenge to 4th instead of dropping back into that middle pack. And I think the fact we didn't or couldn't probably tells me that we need not a mass influx of players, but the right kind of players in the right positions. So that's why I've given them a B.
Yeah, that's fair. When I would watch Brighton, I agree that it did seem like, they were missing a bit of nous. Because when you look at the squad, you had players like Nikita Paris, Pauline Bremer, Kiko Sike, Maria Thorstadter. Those are all veteran players who should have the knowledge and be able to bring the calm. Unfortunately, I think these players aren't necessarily the vocal type of leaders. They are the leaders who kind of like lead through their play. and you needed someone to kind of almost like bark at people and, hey, oh, this, I need you here. Like, we need to get it together. And as much as you have all of those older players, you had so many young 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds who haven't had much experience playing top-level football. And that's where it became obvious. Goalkeeping was inconsistent, and I feel like that is, goalkeeping, it's a big deal. I mean, City, we've struggled the last couple of seasons because of our inconsistency with our goalkeepers. I feel like every single year for the last few years, we've had this, like, is it Kiara Keating, or is it somebody else, or is it someone else, or is it someone else? And that inconsistency also affects the defense, because one keeper plays one way, and then the team has to learn that way, and then get a new keeper in, and then the team has to learn how to play that different way. But you're definitely headed in the right direction. What's her? Oh yeah, Michelle Agyemang. I'm a big fan of her. She's a monster. Hopefully you can hold on to her a lot. I don't know if the Brighton women's, the way that they're going to try to play is going to be very similar to the men's, where, get these young players and then let them go somewhere else for big money value type of vibes. But I would like to see Brighton women almost try to do their own thing, hold on to these players, because with Liverpool, they just lost Taylor Hines, and possibly going to be losing Olivia Smith. So that was a team that was in like 4, 5, 6 range that obviously is going to have a huge drop off. Aston Villa, they have been up and down over the last few years, but they just got sold. So we have no idea what that even means for them. That's going to be a weird year of turbulence. United, they excelled last year. I don't know how consistent if they're going to be able to keep that energy going. So I hope for the best. Brighton, you're a shade of blue, so you're not a shade of red, and those tend to be the teams that I'm like, I hate you guys. So I'm here for it. The success of Brighton, you doing well, means that potentially the other teams don't do so well.
Yeah, I think so. Michelle, in particular, she was actually on loan to us from Arsenal. So she's gone back, and it doesn't sound like she's basically. I don't know whether this sort of came up on your radar, but she came on as a substitute in an England game. They were losing 3-1, I think, at the time, and literally with her first touch scored a volley from outside the box. Ooh. And ever since then, I think we've all gone, oh dear, I don't think she's staying at Brighton. We tried, but I think she'll either get a move to a big club, or she'll stay at Arsenal and compete. I think what we were hoping as a fan base was that her going back to Arsenal might mean one or two of their players have to be moved on. Someone like a Pullover or someone like that might find their playing time. Obviously, if Mead stays and they sign Chloe Kelly, there's, Pullover can play in the middle, but I think she also likes to play on the right predominantly. So, maybe Agyemang going back there could dislodge one or two other players. So sometimes you have to look at it that way rather than, can you get the actual player? But yeah, I think exactly right. We just there wasn't. I think it was. I want to say almost like grit. We didn't have that. We didn't have the ability to kind of dig in and be niggly, be gritty, be tough when we needed to be. We could do the other end of it, but we came up against a few teams who just. We beat Leicester the first time we played them 1-0. It was a tight game. We played them again in the cup, and we got outplayed. And when I say we got outplayed, we got out physicaled. They just were quicker to the ball. They were just more aggressive. They were just nudging, tapping, poking, everything that you can do to disrupt a team who wants to pass it. They were doing it. And quirk of the league games, the League Cup games, that the group games go to penalties if it's a draw. they won on penalties. And to be fair, Dario after the game said they probably deserved to win the game, which again is another reason I like Dario, because he doesn't beat around the bush. If he thinks we deserve to lose, he'll say we deserve to lose that game, which I find quite refreshing, because there are a lot of managers who will try and twist and do everything but say we weren't good enough. So yeah, I think we need a little bit more, that sort of grit, that sort of determination, that maybe we get 1-0 up and we're looking for a second, but when we get counter-attacked, we just need someone who can be in the right place at the right time, in the midfield, and win some balls back that this season we just unfortunately didn't go away.
And the person who can be at the right place in the right time, it was announced a few days ago that Paris FC's free agent, their goalkeeper, Nigerian international, Chamika Ndozie, 24 years old. She's signing with Brighton. That is huge. When I say I didn't see that coming, everybody in my group chat who enjoys Wospo, nobody saw that coming. It is a very big statement for the club, in my opinion. What were your thoughts when you saw that announcement as well?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it was very unexpected. I think, first of all, most of us didn't see a goalkeeper coming in this summer. I think maybe we thought that Dario would decide between Sophie Bagley and Melina Lurk, who have been our goalkeepers last season, and kind of stick with one for the most part. Obviously that would mean that one of them wouldn't be very happy because they'd be on the bench. But I agree with you before when you were saying about swapping keepers in and out and stuff. It just doesn't inspire confidence in anyone, I don't think, to be honest with you, but particularly themselves and the defence. It's interesting. I wrote a sort of a short-ish article for SheGulls, for our website, SheGulls.com, cheap plug. And I kind of did each area of the pitch, and I basically wrote about the goalkeepers that don't expect to see a goalkeeper in. It'll be a competition between Sophie Bagley and Melina Lurk. But I did put a small paragraph at the bottom where I said the only caveat to that is if they were being super bold. I said there's 3 keepers out there who, to me, are so good they instantly come in above the 2 we've got. It was Merle Froms from Wolfsburg, former German international. She's retired now. Muzovic from Chelsea. She's gone to Malmo. And Ndozie from Paris.
Wow. Look at you.
She was the statement one, because I think with Froms and Muzovic, they're both 30. And, by no means are they done by any stretch of the imagination. But you're talking about sort of a 2-3 year contract, whatever it may be. Muzovic just had a baby, or is just about to have a baby, so I think that's one of the reasons why she's gone to Malmo, to go back to Sweden, to her homeland, to have the baby sort of thing, and carry on her career there. But yeah, I mean, Ndozie was always the one I thought was the least likely, because I thought, well, she's very experienced, but she's also pretty much got her whole career ahead of her. She's at almost like the prime time for signing. Where she's not so young like a Kiara Keating, who will kind of, I think she'll need 2-3 seasons to really hit her peak, because she still has a little bit of the naivety of youth in her game. And that's not to say she's not a good keeper, because she is, and she's, her athleticism is incredible. But when you've got someone like Ndozie, who's not only a few years older, but has also played in like World Cup, she's played in Champions League, this sort of thing, you're getting, in a weird way, an old 24-year-old.
Yes.
You're getting a player who's been there, done that, and they're 24, not been there, done that, and they're 32, or they haven't never been there and done that sort of thing. So yeah, I think exactly like you say, it's a big statement of intent. I think she's instantly probably one of the top 2 or 3 goalkeepers in the league.
Agreed.
You know, and I think hopefully we did sign one more player before that, who also, I would say, maybe not quite as much of a statement signing, but maybe like a quality signing, which was we signed Moeka Manami from Roma, who's a Japanese international, 60 plus caps, and a good friend of Kiko Seiki. So you know, it's nice for Kiko to have a friend there. And their other friend is Fuka Nagano. So let's see what happens with that one. Talking about in Liverpool.
Yes, I mean, it's I mean, City. We have our what do we have? We have 5 or 6 Japanese players on our squad now that have joined and followed in the UE, keeping her happy and bringing a little mini family with her.
Incredible player.
Yeah,
she's so good, man.
Man, we
she's so good.
When she got to City, that was the first year we started. I believe it was the first year also we started the podcast, and we did a watch along, and we were like, oh yeah, we're super excited to see what this UE person can do. And we were like, man, she's so tiny, but legitimately, like the first time she received the ball, because she's just so good at receiving the ball and just like this beautiful spin with the ball and just has this open space. And like 5 minutes in the match, we're just going UE, like just like we love Bunny, and then just under Bunny is UE, and naturally probably should like love Lauren Hemp and Greenwood and stuff like that, but like UE, what she brings cannot be replaced at all. And even with Ndoze joining the squad, it's very much going to be similar to Valentolis Joyce when she joined United and she got the chances, just instantly like those big saves, just keeping your team in the game until you can possibly get a goal of your own. That's big time, especially when you know your defense is more stout. Now your attack can attack more freely, or they can feel more comfortable tracking back knowing that they have a stronger defense that, hey, all I gotta do is run back a little bit and now I'll be able to go back forward. So that's great to hear. We'll keep it moving to the supporters section where, you know, you're deep in it. You know, that's what SheGulls is. So I'm excited to hear your thoughts on how the supporters of Brighton did this year, and what grade would you give them?
I'm going to give us an A. I'm only not going to give us an A plus because I feel like at home we could be a little bit louder. We could be a little bit more joined up with our atmosphere. But I think in general we have a really incredible fan base. We've got a very supportive fan base in terms of, you know, I can only speak for Brighton, but we will, even if the players get beaten 5-0, which happens, we still are there. We're still clapping. We still want to say hello to the players and everything like that. And what we always say is that we can be disappointed about the result, but we're never disappointed with our players. And we know they go out there and they try their hardest. And, you know, if they do lose, they're going to be as gutted, if not more, than we are. But we're there at the side of the pitch after a 5-0 loss to say, don't worry, we'll get them next time. And that is such a great community experience to be in, you know, compared to, and obviously this is, you know, I'm a big men's supporter as well, but if Brighton men's team lose and you walk out of the ground, you'll hear, oh, so-and-so was, you know, not great, let's say, you know, oh, well, I always knew so-and-so was rubbish, blah, blah, blah. You get all this. Whereas you walk out of a Brighton women's game and it's, you know, it depends if it's a win or if it's a win, it's euphoria. If it's a loss, it's okay, yeah, but what's the next game? When's the next game? Oh, yeah, we've got to get back on the horse. We've got to, you know, all this sort of thing. And I just think it's one of the things that women's football can do better than its male counterpart, and it's one of the reasons why I enjoy it so much now. And like I say, I still enjoy men's football, but it's different.
Yes.
I'm sure you will have seen all these things about the Swiss women's team losing 7-1 or something about to a under 15s boys team or something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be honest with you, these things are always training exercises anyway. So that's part one. But part two is, why are we comparing the two? You know, I mean, you put, you know, the world's best 100-meter runners, men and women, the men will win. But does that mean you can't watch a women's race and not enjoy it? Of course you can. Yeah. It's the best that the people in that sport have to offer. You know, I encourage anyone who might have listened to this or accidentally thought they were getting Brighton men's. I think you had Albion Roar, didn't you? Give the women's team a chance. Give women's football a chance. Don't compare it to the men's game. I think if you do that, you'll find the support and everything really refreshing. You know, the differences in the two games very refreshing. The other thing I'd mention mainly is due to a couple of our supporters in particular, we've really got our away attendance up. Last season, we were probably taking, I mean, from the Brighton area, single digits, I would say. You'd probably end up with 15 or 20 people at an away game, normally because it'd be someone who was from Brighton originally, who'd moved to Liverpool or something, so they would go along. But really, in terms of people travelling from Brighton to those places, it would be sort of, 10 or less, I would say. Whereas this season, it's really picked up to the point where the club agreed to put coaches on to all the London games for us. So we had at least,
that's great.
I would say, at least 50 to 100 people at all the London games.
That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah, and we had a very kind person who funded some fan travel, so it was all organised by the fans rather than the club to go to a couple of the games further away. So we took about 30 or 40 up to Everton. I think we had for Villa, I think we had 60 or 70 on the last game of the season. So, and that's really why I would give it an A, is because it really does feel that it took a big leap this year, particularly the away support. And I think, it's an incredible achievement. And our ultimate goal is to kind of lobby the club to give us travel to every away game.
Yeah.
Hopefully that will come one day. I don't know how long it will take, but, as I say, just having the London games, almost half the league is in London now. So if we can get travel to the games, yeah. And I mean, we're paying for it, right? We're not asking for it for free. We're just asking for the club to put their hand in their pocket to begin with, and then let us pay you back by, nobody's asking for handouts or anything. But before, there just never had really seemed the demand. And this season, it's absolutely skyrocketed. And it's just an incredible community.
Yeah, well, getting fifth, having this new fund manager, getting Ndozi, like those are the things that will excite people to really want to come through and show up and show out. And that's dope. That's what you love to hear. Man City, they have an amazing supporter group. I like their energy is so great. I always hear them on the road games. Like City did that off-season sevens tournament, and there were like a good 5 or 6 from the supporters group who went to Portugal, I think it was stayed there for the competition. I was able to meet a chunk of them when I was at the game, and that was really an honor because I've chatted with so many of them via social media for years, and so to finally be able to meet them and take pictures and talk about the game together, I had so much of a better time at the women's game with the energy. And I mean, they also they won compared to the men who tied to Brighton. The energy was better. The game was more fun. It was great. I got to have Bovril for the first time. I had, it was just overall, it was a really good experience. And you're right when you talk about just the energy, like depending on, even if your team loses, they'll leave the women's match, and the conversation on social media is a lot more positive. It's talking. It's more like solution based than it is just like opinion, feeling your feelings. It's like, okay, well, this is where we struggled, so this is where we can grow. It's like, okay, what's next? How can we do better? Instead of where the men's up like, Doku is shit. He doesn't have a finishing product. Holland, 3 touches. That's all he could do all match. Like, the vibes aren't as positive. So yeah, I completely understand that. Okay, well, finally we got to the front office. I feel like you might be positive about them, but that's why I asked our guests to do the grading and let me know why you gave them that grade.
So I've given them a B. I guess because in my mind, the front office covers kind of so many different elements of the club, of what they do. I think there are many elements where they absolutely excel. I mean, we've got a fantastic training ground. The money is clearly being put into the team now. I think we saw that last season with the additions of like Fran and Nikita, and signing sort of some other quality players from around Europe, perhaps with an eye to getting them just before they were nabbed by someone else, maybe one of the top 4 teams. I think there's still a little bit of work to do in terms of how the front office connects with the fans. Are we back? I'll present the show. I'll talk about Man City. Don't worry, everyone.
Oh, can you not see me? What happened?
Yeah, I lost you.
Okay, so you can't see me, but you can hear me?
I can't see you, but I can hear you now. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Well, you keep talking, and I'll figure this out.
I thought I was going to have to do an hour straight on Man City then.
No, you're good. You're good. Finish your talking, and I will get this sort of situated.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so I mean, as I say, I think in terms of the actual the front office and how it relates to the team is really good. They're putting money into the team, money into the performance center. They're putting money into all aspects of it, and I think that's great. You want to see continued investment, especially when lots and lots of teams are kind of either de-investing or looking to kind of get external help and stuff like that. It's good to see all of Brighton's stuff being kept in-house and handled very well. I think the kind of PR and the marketing is done very well. Runs as should, is very informative. We get lots of pictures, lots of videos, that type of thing. And they're sort of starting to branch out into a bit more original stuff this season, so that's all fantastic. Yeah, as I say, my only reason for giving it a B as opposed to an A is I still think there's a little bit of a disconnect between the front office and the fans. It's kind of our personal opinion that they could do with a women's liaison officer who's responsible for kind of dealing with the fans, with their incoming inquiries and stuff, but specifically for the women's team. Because obviously at the moment, if we do have any queries, if we do have any issues, it kind of goes to the main office team, the main back office team, and they're primarily concentrated on the men's team. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you can feel like a little bit less than because you're a women's team supporter, which I think is a shame. So as I say, by and large, I think the front office is great. It's doing a really good job, especially with the team. I think it's just kind of connecting a couple of dots that at the moment are kind of separate, and they just need joining together.
I love it. Yeah. When we first started, there was a Man City Women account, but they would only post on the Man City main account. And we, for a good year and a half, we were just complaining about it. And we understood it because the men's account, it's like 70 million followers. So like I get that. You put them on main so they can get the attention, and then they pivoted once I think that they started seeing a good amount of numbers. Then that's when they switched over to Man City Women, and now they use that full time. But what I love now even better is like when we get signings, it's a collaborative post where it's Man City Women and men, at least on like Instagram and stuff, but also on Twitter, they'll post on Man City Women and they'll also post it on the Man City main account. So that's all I wanted to see is, you can post it on the one, but you get the men's, you also get the kind of like the nasty comments. So like also put it on the women's where the true fans who are there for the women can support, show the love, be happy, all of those things. So yeah, I'm sure that'll be how you guys will move in the next year with success that will bring the interest and things like that. So yeah, I hope the best for it. Yeah, definitely, most definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely an improvement. Like you say, we do use our the women's account on X and Instagram and stuff is pretty active, and like you say, they are starting to do more of those collaborative posts of, we've signed this player, and the women's player will be reposted or whatever by the men's account and things like that. So I think there's some connections going on there, and I think that's positive because you always want crossover between the two. I think ultimately that's probably how attendances are really going to rise. Is if we kind of get another Euro 2022 moment where there's just a big swathe of people who decide to give it a go, and then a substantial amount of them stay on, as it were, to carry on watching. But I think, I would point out, and I should assume you guys are the same, there are some people who really absolutely want nothing to do with Brighton men's team. We have actually quite a few supporters who don't even support Brighton men's team. One of my collaborators on the podcast supports Liverpool men's team because when she was young, she had family from there, and obviously supporting a men's team has been ingrained in the culture for a long time. So she had Liverpool. She's not going to change from Liverpool, but that doesn't mean that she had to support Liverpool women's team. And she lived in Crawley, I think, at the time, and was like, right, I'll go along, check out a women's game, enjoyed it, and has been watching Brighton ever since. And now if it's the women's game, there's no two ways about it. She's supporting Brighton. She wants Liverpool to fall over and get stuck in the mud. So it's really interesting. And it's just less tribal in that sense. It really is. I mean, I was born in Brighton, so I'm kind of stuck with the men's team and the women's team. I could change, but I won't because that's not what we do. But I do think it's nice that people don't feel like, because I support Tottenham or something, men's team, because I've supported them since I was a little kid, that if they can go and see their local team and their local women's team is Brighton, I think it's fantastic that they can support Brighton women's team and it not be you're just you're a filthy supporter of Spurs or Liverpool or whoever it may be. No, they're welcomed in like everyone else. We're all pulling in the same direction. So it's just another facet of the women's game, which I think is nice and is a bit of a departure from the men's. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh man, well, this was a wonderful conversation. I truly enjoyed myself. I feel like I definitely know Brighton so much better. I appreciate you and your time. Please plug yourself, let people know where they can find you and the things that you do.
So probably the best thing to do is to go to SheGulls.com. We have links to everything else from there. So that's probably if you only remember one thing, SheGulls.com. That's probably the best thing. But we do also have a podcast of our own, SheGulls podcast. If you search for that on like Spotify, Apple, we should come up. I think we're on 50 something odd episodes now, so we've been going a long old while. Yeah, if you're interested in Brighton women, then give us a watch.
I love it. All right, Shady Gang, we will be back tomorrow. We have a slate of shows tomorrow, actually. I think we got 2 end of season reports and a YouTube stream. So yeah, plenty. Check the socials. You'll see it all. But until then, you know the vibes. Shady Gang, Shady Gang, Shady Gang. Yo, 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 yo. Why is it not ending? Okay. What is happening? Okay, I'm just gonna have to cut this, but I don't know why it's not ending. I'm very frustrated with FanFest right now because this is silly. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to refresh.
It's the heat.
Yeah, I guess so. I think I'm just gonna have to refresh again. So you feel free to drop out. I'm gonna end this show and let me try it on my phone. This is so
okay.
silly.
Lovely to speak to you as always.
Yes, great chatting with you. I appreciate you. It's so embarrassing.
No problem.
Okay, cool.